Welcome to Determined to Succeed. I'm your host, Dawn, also known as Unique Connector. So I'm so excited to have Anitra on the show today. And I want to kick it off today because I know sometimes we can stay so encouraged and motivated, but sometimes rejection comes in. And so, how do we stay motivated and encouraged to keep going in business?
Absolutely, Don. I think that's a great question to start us off today. So, a little bit about me. I'm a networking strategist and a fractional COO, and I work with clients to help equip them with a strategic network so they can reduce their networking activities and have a model to scale or expand their business. And so, when it comes to networking and business development, we are meeting with a lot of different people. We're also we're networking to also to meet clients. And sometimes, in those conversations, we may feel like a little bit of rejection because we're talking to someone in a networking group, we're telling them about who we are, and then they start asking us questions. And then sometimes they're like, yeah, that's nice. Or, they may be like, yeah, but I don't really understand what you're talking about. And so we feel a little bit like, okay, am I saying the wrong things? What should I do? And so a lot of times when I talk to people about in the framework of like networking is that we actually need to be more patient and we need to persevere in those times. And I actually want to share a statistic with you, Don, that I think can kind of help ground our conversation today. So 80% of sales requires or sales representatives, they require an average of 5 follow-ups in order to close the deal. Okay. However, 44% of sales reps follow up a prospect only once before giving up. So we need to follow up 5, but 44% actually stop following up after one time. And then the kicker of this is that after 4 follow-ups, 94% of salespeople have completely given up. That only means like 6% of people actually will go that extra step to go ahead and follow up with people. And so when we are in those conversations, and even when we're following it with people who we've networked with or clients, a lot of times the data shows us is that a lot of times we actually give up really easily.
Yeah.
Majority of us do not take that one extra step, that one extra follow-up to actually like close that partnership, to actually like close that deal. We stop way too short. And I think the reason why we do that is because we live in a kind of instant gratification kind of world. So we kind of get impatient. And I'll raise my hand, John, too. Like, I know you want to raise your hand too. Like, sometimes we can get impatient, being like, this is taking a little too long.
Yeah.
And then two, again, we sometimes feel a little bit entitled. Like, I reached out to them. Why aren't they getting back to me? Like it's been 24 hours. Like, why in the world haven't I heard from them? Like, it's been a week. Why haven't I heard from them? And sometimes we get a little bit entitled, thinking that we should receive responses, within this specific time frame without recognizing that, maybe that person is, an accountant and you're reaching out to them in like, I don't know, February. And so maybe they're a little bit busy and they may not be able to get back to you in the time frame that you want to. It's going to take them a little more time. So sometimes that impedes our ability to be patient and to persevere because we're not necessarily considering all of the factors. So I think, as we think about being encouraged, we have to shift our mindset and shift our understanding and be more conscientious about what's going on with the people who we're talking with. And what's maybe going on in our environment to really be able to stay in the game so that we are determined to succeed.
Oh, and good job putting in the title of the podcast there. And so Anitra, I know I feel like so many people are like, 5 times. They're, thinking that out loud. What am I going to follow up with 5 different things,
Right.
of how I can reach out to them? So, what is something that you say to people when they're like, what am I going to do for 5 different emails or contacts or ways to reach out to these people?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I actually was recently asked that same question at a workshop that I was facilitating, and the attendee who asked me was like, I need to be more creative. That was, maybe I just need to be more creative. And I want to tell you this little secret:
Ooh,
you
I'm
don't
ready.
need to be more creative.
Ooh.
Okay. following up with people has nothing to do with creativity. This has nothing to do with that you need to go and like create a reel and then send it to them. Okay. Like, no, you don't need to be more creative. What you do need to be is more intentional. So let me put you in and also put things in perspective. So think about like you're developing a relationship with a strategic partner and you're following up with them over a course of a year. Okay. So not a week, not 3 months, but over the course of a year that you're developing this relationship. Okay. If you have 4 calls with them every quarter, that's 4 touch points.
Mm-hmm.
If you are on you're connected with them on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, and you see that person posts 4 times a month, that's 4 touch points. If you have a newsletter that you send out to all your partners, that's quarterly, that's 4 touch points right there. If you're exchanging introductions in between them, and maybe you exchange 2 to 3 introductions a month, okay?
Yes.
If we do 2 times 12 months, that's 24 touch points right there. So it has nothing to do about being creative. It has everything to do about how intentional you are and your actions that you're doing with that individual and the kinds of touch points that you want to have with that individual. And so if you look at it from that perspective of like, how can I interact with this person over the course of a relationship of a year? There's a lot more than enough touch points that is literally at your fingertips that you're able to go ahead and nurture those relationships.
And that's the part I think too of our society we have to remember too of all these technology touch points is sometimes, there's a lot going on, distractions, lots of things. And that's why there's so many different opportunities of how you can have creative touch points. How you did say the newsletter, there's posts, there's online other things they might be seeing you see them at an event. There's many ways. And that's where I think some people get stuck because they're like, how am I going to get in front of them creatively? It's get back to the basics of, hey, I'm checking in on you, or I'm thinking of you today, or hey, are you going to go to this event? Because I'm going to go. I would love to see your face there too, or invite them to be your guests. Like, you don't have to be that creative. And I think that's the part with all the noise going on in our society of just try this. This is the next thing. Here's the next strategy. Here's the golden clue to what you need to do. And so what do you say when there's so much noise going on right now of all these things too, of the fear that some of us are having maybe in missing out or rejection, I guess, even go back to that topic too of rejection.
Oh yeah. We live in a very noisy society. And so one of the things that we have to do is limit our distractions. And it's like, well, Anitra, what the heck does that mean? Like, what do you mean limited distractions? I'm already distracted. How in the world am I going to limit them? And I think part of that is recognizing that you as a business owner are the strategic decision maker in your business. And what I mean by being a strategic decision maker is that like there are always going to be decisions that you're going to have to make. There's always going to be some type of responsibility, some type of task, some type of ask that is going to be put into your face constantly as a business owner. But it is your job to develop the boundaries and to make those difficult decisions that will lead you to make the kind of decisions that's going to support your business. And so what you have to understand, but even before you make the decision, you have to understand and get very clear on the direction of where you're going. And so part of that is that like, you have to understand what the mission of your business is. You have to understand what your annual goals are, what your quarterly goals are. You have to understand like what those boundaries of like what you will and will not accept, what you will and what you will not do, who you will and who you will not work with. You have to understand those pieces so that when those decisions and those asks come to you, you can say, you know what? Thank you so much for that. But you know what? That's not my focus here this quarter. Can you follow with me in quarter 4? It's not being mean. It's not being rude. It's not being nasty. It's saying, I'm a strategic decision maker in my business. I know my boundaries. I know where I need to be. But if I'm say yes to that, it's going to distract me from the things that I actually need to say yes to. And so you need to have those pieces. In addition, as a strategic decision maker, you also need to have data. because a lot of times we make decisions out of emotions of it makes us feel good, it makes us feel excited, or we make decisions out of fear because we are absolutely terrified, we're absolutely scared, or we're wondering, are we going to miss out based upon that decision? And what we have to recognize is that emotions and fear, not saying that we can't have emotions when making decisions, but if we're guided by, I just want to go ahead and make this decision because it makes me feel good, because it makes you feel good is not enough information to make you decide, well, is this decision actually going to make us more money? Is this decision actually going to help me to be in front of the right person? Is this the kind of partner that I want to work with that actually isn't going to go ahead and who's going to respect my business enough that they're going to sign an NDA? Is this a person who's not going to go ahead and like ruin my intellectual property? Like, we have to make those decisions, not because, oh, well, they kind of seem nice. No. How many times have they actually sent you an introduction?
Right.
How many times have they actually said, like, followed up on your emails? How many times have they invited you to something or whatever it is that benchmark it is? What about them that you can have some data that says, you know what, I should partner with this person? Not because they seem nice, but because they actually did things that actually falls in alignment with what it means to actually be a good partner. So it's those kinds of pieces and examples, Dawn, of in order for us to deal with the distractions, we've got to be better decision makers.
Yeah, which I think is very hard. And like you said earlier too, the fear-based, fear and excitement are the same feelings. And that is what can distract us big time. And I think that's the part too, where being a solopreneur or even a business owner of a team, there's lots going on. And so sometimes too, it's coming up with these clear boundaries, this clear plan, this clear structure of all the things. And how I love how you said, that's not my goal for quarter 4. Let's follow up, later on. Because there is so many balls in the air sometimes. And we know too, we can't always be perfect at all the things. And so I love how you're talking about data and even talking about it with partnerships, because sometimes some people are so focused on client work, sales sometimes, where it's in front of the prospects, but they're not always thinking strategically about things. And so, being a networking person, how are you doing it all too when it comes to in-person, virtual, all the things? Because I feel like sometimes some people are pushing each other's boundaries or trying to help you go outside of the box. And it's like sometimes too, with this world of technology, there is great opportunities, but we're also missing that human interaction sometimes. So what would you say to somebody too that's kind of even trying to understand what is the best way for me to network?
Yeah. That is a great question, Dawn. Well, it all really stems back. The first piece that I talk even with my clients about, like, it all stems back to your business model. It stems back to, like, who are you as a business owner? What are you trying to achieve as a business, so that we understand where and who we actually need to be interacting with. Because, for example, if you are a B2C business where you are selling, direct selling, you sell candles and you sell direct to them. If you are in a networking group and everyone in that networking group is B2B and it's not B2C, you're in the wrong room. But if you don't understand who your target audience is and and what your business is, you're going to continue to put yourself into the wrong rooms. So that's where it starts. Like, that's the first line of where it starts. Is like, you can understand your business, because that's going to dictate kind of where you're going to be. Now, I think the balance of, do I do virtual or in person? I think, again, a little bit has to do with your industry, and it has to do with your audience about, like, where are those partners that are going to be there. But primarily, I think the thing that most of us miss out is that we think, again, that we have to do everything and all things by going to every networking group, every networking event, every one-on-one that comes our way, like our cousin's best friend's sister who, like, just started a business. Not saying that we shouldn't help new businesses, but at the same time, like, you're just taking it all, versus recognizing that what you're underestimating in your business is actually the people who are in your current network. And that a lot of times, instead of actually going to one more thing, the area where you can actually get a lot of momentum are the people that you currently know, the 100 people, the 200, the 300 people, the 1,000 people that are already in your network. There is a bountiful amount of opportunities that are there. But if you don't know when the last time that you spoke with anybody in your current network, you've missed out on all those opportunities. Like sometimes I'm told, Anitra, like the well is dry. I don't know where else to go. Where I'm like, well, how many people are in your network? 200 people. Okay, well, when was the last time that you talked to anybody? I'm not really sure. Okay, well, it looks like we got 200 opportunities here. I'm not saying all of 200 are going to work out, but we have the well laying dry, honey. We got 200 people that we can talk to that can go ahead and do that. You don't actually have to go to one more event. Sometimes you probably don't even need sometimes you may be at a point and the amount of people that is in your network that like you actually don't need to do more work of actually attending more things. What you need to do is to cut back and actually focus on the current relationship that you actually have and nurturing those and asking them for the things that you need and following up with them. Because if you've only reached out to them, as we talked about earlier in our first statistic, if you only reached out to them once, you've missed out. You've got 4 other chances of opportunities where they could have come back to you with opportunities, but you only asked them once. So that's that piece of, when I in that perspective, Dawn, of like, is it virtual or is it in person? Honestly, that really has, I feel like it really has not a lot of leaning on really like on making an impact as much. Not saying that you shouldn't be strategic where you go. That is very important, but that actually has little bearing to your success when you're networking and doing business development. What's actually far more important is actually following up with your current relationships and actually sending them the information that you promised to send them, by actually following up with them on the introductions that they said that they had. That's far more important than going to one more event.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And that's where even too, so many people come to me about networking tips and advice, and, you can do what works best for you, when it comes to virtual, in-person, whatnot. I always like to kind of hear different things. So I'm glad you gave that perspective, because deep down, so many people forget about leveraging who they currently know.
Yes.
To think outside the box. Like earlier we were saying, how many touch points. There's ways to rekindle relationships. And I even know for myself, like there are so many people that I need to still keep reaching out to. Know that we're all human. And I think that's the part too, is we have to keep reminding ourselves that you're going to hear no's, you're going to hear maybes, you're going to hear maybe yeses too. But there's always opportunity to learn and grow. And I think that's the part too, is deep down is building that relationship. That's what matters, is building relationships, seeing how you can be a resource, how you can help other people. It could be in different ways. And I think you gave lots of great advice and different thoughts about what it is to build a relationship. It doesn't always have to be this special certain way. It's just think what you're already doing and where you're already in what circles, and just rethink differently and leverage it. So Anitra, I have to ask, what keeps you determined to keep going in your eyes?
Yeah. It will definitely have to go back to what I said earlier in our conversation. It's about that patience and perseverance. Because what I recognize, especially in business, is that it is a humbling experience. And I truly believe that the humble are the ones who actually succeed in business, because it forces you to not think about just yourself and your own needs. It forces you to really think about others. It forces me to think about who are my partners and how can I serve them best. It forces me to think about my audience and like how I can serve them best. It's a place of selflessness instead of selfishness. And so, but in doing that, I have to be patient. I have to consider that, like, especially like I live in Georgia, we had hurricane season that just ended for us, close by. I'm just like, they were my people that I had to check in on when we had some hurricanes that came through. I'm like, y'all doing all Y'all got power? Y'all got water? Like, those pieces of just like, and even though like we had that going on, I still had to be patient of just like, you know what, it's going to take a bit for some people to get back to me. I had some emails, and also too, and being human, having people to also do the same thing for me,
Yeah.
and receiving that patience and receiving that encouragement to persevere also at the same time. So that kind of mixture of what I have received as well as what I can give to others pushes me to want to drive for success.
I love that. Want to drive for success. You know, and this is the part I even kind of like. Anitra and I never met in person. We've had multiple calls with each other. And that's
Yes.
the part I love. And the beauty of this too is like, you never know what introduction, what it can create, what connection can come out of it, what inspiration, what time together. And I think that's the part and the beauty of building relationships and making a point to give to other people. Someone
Yes.
gave and introduced us, and look at what came out of it.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
right. And that's where I'm
Yes.
like, you and I both are like on the same page when it comes to networking. And like, we want to just support other people and help them think more smarter and strategic.
Yes.
And so I appreciate you being on the show, being a connection of mine, sharing your wisdom, and just your energy always too uplifts me. So I appreciate that. So keep shining brighter, my dear. I appreciate you so much. And, you know, one last piece of thought that you want to leave the listeners with today at all?
Yeah. I think the last piece of advice of the listeners, I think, is, you know, find your people. Like, I know I know that may sound a little weird, but like in choosing your own set of a board of advisors, of
Mm,
people who you know that you can go ahead and reach out to, that people who you know that you can just kind of like be transparent with about what's going on in your business, I think is so important to that success. Because like sometimes, as I say, leadership is lonely. Like business, being a business owner can be lonely because again, you're that decision maker. You've got a lot of things that are layered on your shoulders. And so being able to have a support team that you can go ahead and rely on definitely can buoy you, as you're in that place to want to drive to succeed. Because sometimes you're gonna reach some bumps, some obstacles, some things in the road. You're like, hold on, like this road was absolutely clear about 5 minutes ago. Why in the world is there a huge tree in the middle of this road? Like there was no tree 5 minutes ago. So like, and sometimes you be like, I'm gonna have to call. I'm before I call AAA, I'm gonna need to call up Dawn. Dawn, there's a tree in the middle of the road. I'm gonna need you to calm me down before I call AAA because I don't understand how a tree just fell in front of me. So like knowing, having finding those people who you can go ahead and be able to who are able to nurture you and that you're able to nurture them is it's so important.
well, I love that. And I appreciate you so much. Keep shining bright, keep staying determined, keep succeeding, my dear. And I hope our listeners had some great takeaways like I did today. So thank you so much, Anitra.
Thank you, Dawn, so much.